Our guests today are Marla Meehl and Wendy Huntoon, the principal investigators on the National Science Foundation's Women in IT Networking and Supercomputing. Marla, Wendy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit more about what it means to be principal investigators at WINS.
So Wendy and I have worked together for a long time, and Wendy actually approached me about 5 years ago about submitting a grant to see if we could increase the number of women in IT, specifically working on the SciNet team at supercomputing. And so we talked to the National Science Foundation. Kevin Thompson agreed to fund a pilot program in 2015. And so it's been a really successful program. She and I have worked together for a long time and had noticed that there weren't very many women in IT in our field. So, I mean, Wendy, you really were the spearhead for this program. And
so I worked on SciNet back in 1991, and so I had stopped working on it as I had sort of gone up the management chain at my job at the time. And Jason Zarowski from ESNet now approached us because he was very involved in SciNet, and he said, how do we get more women involved? And one of the issues in terms of actually sending someone to volunteer for SciNet is actually the travel funds associated with it. So a lot of places are willing to let people have the 2 weeks or 3 weeks off because they figure that it's professional development. But if you're actually coming up with the travel funds, and it's not terribly expensive, but it's on the order of between $5,000 to $7,500, that can be a real hit to your budget. So we came up with this idea where we would actually just pay for the travel funds for the women to actually come and participate in SciNet. And it turns out that that was a really critical component to actually encouraging a broader set of institutions to actually send volunteers to supercomputing, to SciNet in particular. And the other thing we did, we made it competitive. So you have to apply. And I think that's the other thing, that anything that you have to apply to, that you can generate excitement associated with that.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of success in getting, many applications. And Wendy actually leads the team that are professional experts who go through and have a very detailed matrix of the criteria we would like to meet and what women are qualified, and then they've made tremendously good selections of the women who have come.
About how many are selected each year?
So between 5 and 7, and we try to get Marla not to fund everybody. So we found the first year I think we did 8 or 5, and then one year we did 8, and that was just a lot to manage. And so then we said, okay, 5 is about the right number. So this year we actually funded 7. Because Marla was really advocating for, we had fabulous candidates this year. It's sort of interesting, this is the first year that we've had people defer. So we actually have 2 women who, given where they were sort of in their work-life balance, that this November was not a good time for them to come to supercomputing. So they are actually deferring to next year. And so that was sort of an interesting experience as well. Thinking about it more from a long-term participation standpoint instead of just a yearly participant. So far, in the 5 years that we've had the program, we have funded 32 women to actually come and participate in SciNet. And then we also do fund, in subsequent years, partial funding for people to come back. So by the second year, what we hope is that the institution that the person works for is willing to fund all, if not at least part of their travel funds to come to supercomputing. Right.
And I think that's an important point, is that the goal was not to have people just do it for 1 year, but was to have it become a sustainable program so women came back. And that we've really seen success this year where many of the women are either leads on teams or co-leads on teams, and many are still participating in teams. So with the new women that have been funded and the 8 returning, I think we have 8, WINS is accounting for at least 13 of the people that are working on the SciNet team, which is really exciting.
So how do you get the word out to get people to apply for the position?
Well, our real jobs are to do networking. And so I actually work at the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder. And through that, I have a set of networked people that I can send those out to my various lists. And Wendy has a set of lists. And we work very closely with the Department of Energy, the ESNet, and they have a set of lists. And one of the awardees this year is from a DOE lab. And so we try and use all of our resources, and then the National Science Foundation actually sends it out to their PI list, and we encourage people to, kind of spread the word, filter it down, so that if they have groups that they can send it to, that it goes out. So we actually reach a lot of people through that.
How's the response been? You get lots of applicants?
So we've sort of settled in the 30 to 35. The application itself is fairly rigorous. You have to submit a resume, letter of interest saying why you want to do it, and then your management actually has to submit a management support letter as well. When we first sort of started this, we found that the weak link was actually the resumes were targeting early to mid-career women, and we found that they hadn't necessarily had good experience in terms of writing a resume and being able to articulate what their skill set was. So we worked a little bit with the community on that, made it clear that a good resume was important, asked the organizations to actually work with their staff on putting together good resumes. So that has really improved. The next step is the management letters. And so we found this year that some of the management letters weren't very good, that we actually had a couple of women who had, good, packages from a letter of intent as well as a resume, but their management letter was only four lines. And so we really couldn't tell how the organization was planning on leveraging the person's involvement in SINET and how supportive they were going to be in the long run. So that's one of the things that we're working on in the coming year, is trying to make sure that the managers know that they have to really be supportive of their applicants, so that they demonstrate that they're willing to support them through writing an appropriate letter.
And I should add that, part of the WINS program is to fund the women, but it's also to raise awareness of the, issue that there are lacking diversity in IT in general. Women is just one piece of the pie that's not well represented in IT, but also to, grow these women in their professional development. And so part of that is travel experience, writing a resume, and also we then ask them to do a report out, so they either go to a regional meeting or another national meeting, so that they get experience presenting and being publicly, and that also raises the awareness. And in fact, I was just talking to one of the previous WINS awardees who really thanked us, because she said, I used to be so afraid to present, and she said, now I'm so much more comfortable, and it's really grown that. And the other thing Wendy and I learned was professional networks are really important, and so people you can reach out to. And when you ask how we get people to come, we have pretty strong professional networks, and so part of this is also to grow these women's professional networks so that they have other women they can reach out to, but also other men. And SINET's a tremendous experience, and all of them say, now they have not only personal people they can reach out to if there's issues going on, but they also have professional technical people they can ask questions of. And so it was really, because we had really valued the fact that we had a professional network that we could talk to each other and help each other.
And some of the people that I worked with early on in my career through SINET were people who ended up being champions for my career. And so it really did matter. And if I was in an organization where maybe there was some question about my capability, I had these external people who were willing to come in and provide support for what my actual skill level was. And sort of interesting, and it's not just in our community, but a lot of times you're appreciated more outside your normal organization than you are inside. So having that broader community so that people will talk you up and provide opportunities for you is just invaluable. And we had that both with each other, but we were sort of early on in the whole supercomputing community. I worked at the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center for 25 years. That's how we met. She's at NCAR. And so we had that group of people to help us with our careers. And so we also felt after we started WINS that that was something that we could bring as that community to this group of women as well.
So you mentioned that you met people who became champions for your career. Are you now finding yourself as a champion for other people's career through this?
Absolutely. And so we've actually found that for a number of the WINS recipients, that if they go up for an award in their campus or they want to do something, they're looking at a job change, that they'll come back and ask us for letters of recommendations and letters of support. And there was one woman who, and she did not get the award, but she was going up for an award in her university, and every single person who wrote the letter had director or CEO in their title. And especially if you're early mid-career, that's sort of unusual to have that level of support and that level of connections, and it can make a difference. It really does open doors. And so that's the other thing that we're trying to do, is make sure that we're helping open those doors as well. There can be an all boys network sometimes, and so we're just trying to make sure that it's just a network of people.
Yeah.
So when do you start taking applications?
Usually March 1st. And then we have the deadline is usually the end of March. We used to have it be sort of the third week of March, but then we would always extend it. And so now we say the end of March and there are no extensions. What we try to do is make sure that we select the recipients in a timely manner so that they can actually start participating in the specific SIGNET team early enough so that they're not missing out on anything. The first year we did it, we were a little late. And so that's something that we learned, that we need to just start earlier so that we can integrate them sooner so that they're really part of the team.
And there's some back and forth with the team as well, because before they're put on a team, we have to work a lot with SIGNET to have them accept. And yes, that person does seem to fit with the team. We have enough room for another person on the team. We have someone that will mentor them, because the other important piece of this program is the mentoring, which the SIGNET team, then defines who's going to be the mentor for that person through the process. And that's very important, because that becomes a champion for them. But it also really grows the mentor's awareness, and it grows their skill set in being a mentor. And so I think that's been actually an indirect, really positive part. Then we do a survey at the end of both the WINS participants and the mentors of how did things go, what could we do better, what could we change. And I think we've learned a lot from that. We keep metrics. We're trying to get diversity not just in women in general, but geographic diversity and also sort of size of schools. So this year we have a couple of EPSCoR small population states that have been funded. We also were able to get a community college, I think, for the first time, which we've never been able to get that. So we're reaching kind of into the smaller organizations, which I think is really powerful.
And organizations that wouldn't think that supercomputing was the appropriate conference for you. If you're a small liberal arts college in the South, you don't have a supercomputer, and so you're not thinking, oh, this is a great place for me to send my staff for them to get professional development. And so we're really trying to expand that as well, not just for the women, but for the organizations in general.
So it sounds like participants in the program don't just win a trip, they win a whole mentorship.
They do. They get a network.
And in fact, we have WINS people that are actually going to present at the I2 Tech Exchange. There's a panel that is made up of WINS and being led by one of our other team participants. And we should give a shout out to DOE, the Department of Energy. They bring 3 of their staff people, and they have from the very beginning. They're often the boots on the ground here, helping set up the mentorships and get things running. And they've also been very supportive of funding women. But Jason's also going to actually, run the panel at the I2 Tech Exchange. And Internet 2 has been very supportive of this program as well. So it's really a family. It's really a large group. And WINS is a tiny piece of it, but it's been really a positive experience for all of us.
And we find in the community, people don't say no to us. So.
If they know what's good for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
So I think the final thing is what the stats are, Marla. I think, we actually, last year we went back and we got the volunteer list for SIGNET since I think it was 2006 or so. And so we actually went and, tried to figure out the gender distribution. And we've actually significantly increased the number of women who are participating in SIGNET. So this year it's 26%. So it's it really is pretty significant. And before the WINS program, I think the highest was like 10 or 12%. So I mean, it's probably would have grown anyway, but we really think that WINS had a big impact on expanding the number of female participants.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.